One of the most common issues preventing women from getting on the road is making money. But if you enjoy interacting online and you like to be a little creative, becoming a social media manager might be a good fit. In this video, Kat shares strategies for getting started, how she organizes her work while traveling full-time in her van. And before we dive in, I just want to invite all the women watching to join our Nomadic Women's virtual happy hour on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. You can find the link in our Facebook group, Gal Adventures, and I stuck that link below in the description.
To sustain myself on the road, I have my clients that I work for kind of, a few hours a day. I have about 10-ish clients doing their socials, and I kind of work my own schedule. We meet maybe like once a week, so I'll try to either be in a place where I have service or go to a coffee shop, just kind of do Zoom meetings or anything like that to stay connected. And it's been really easy. Other than sometimes changing time zones will throw me off. I have to remember where I am in the country, and but other than that, it's been really pretty easy working on the road. A lot of it is starting with my clients, usually meeting with them for a week, a month, kind of figuring out their business, and then once I know what they're looking for, generally it entails me like creating content for them, so taking pictures, making videos, posting the content, making sure it's on a regular schedule. Generally, a lot of my clients are small local businesses that are doing very well for themselves in their community, and it's just the online reach isn't there. They've either never paid attention to it, put any focus on it, so those are usually good people if you want to get into the industry of social media management. I always say, go to a mom and pop shop and ask them, because generally they are looking for help. It's just kind of hard sometimes to know where to start, or to also even just Google, something and try to figure out yourself. It can be overwhelming, and they have businesses to run, so it's a full-time job. For me, I like social media a lot more because it's consistent with always putting out new content and always consistently being creative, and staying relevant with your clients, versus a website. Usually I'll do one for a client like once a year, and then we meet once a year to redo it. So creatively, social media management has been really nice to do. I know some people right now are merging into user-generated content. Have you heard of that? So user-generated content is something people will do where instead of you going to a mom and pop shop and kind of talking to people that could be your clients, you'll basically take a product that you have, like say this is Pendleton, take a video with it, make an ad, and then you send it to Pendleton or whatever the brand is, and you put your watermark over it, and then you just pitch yourself and say like, are you looking for content, are you interested in this video that I have, and then you sell it to them basically. So that's a little more of the like one-off, but you can't get regulars that way too. I definitely take into account how long it takes me to do. So if it's something that I worked on all day versus something that you can whip together real quick, but sometimes people will pay a lot for something you made in like maybe 30 minutes, and then something that took you 8 hours to do, everyone's like, eh. So when it comes to pricing, I would say I think I've definitely heard people doing as low as like $150 a reel or a TikTok for some smaller businesses, so per finished video, and then going all the way up to I think 300, 500 is more what people charge, is more standard for medium-sized businesses, not like a local mom and pop shop. And sometimes they'll buy a few videos off you. You might get lucky and they'll do like kind of like a regular thing, but these are all like a monthly, maybe like 2-3 videos a month. But yeah, these are all things. Generally, I think it's just good to try to feel the client out, which is harder in a corporation.
Yeah.
So sometimes people will just have their media kits and say what they offer and then have a range or a starting point. Or you can always just say, contact for pricing or get on the phone with someone to talk about it, because you can also go from $300 to $500 to $3,000 to $5,000,
Right.
depending on the business, and depending on also your gear. For example, if you have you're shooting something on an iPhone versus a drone, you can generally charge more if you have a drone, because not as many people do, and those aerial shots are always really cool. So but yeah, it's definitely a range, and I think pricing is always what's the hardest part of it, because every time you're talking to a new person, you're trying to gauge it and figure it out. And right now, I feel like the standards have really been shifting, and it's something people don't really talk about, so it's hard to gauge it. You don't want to sell yourself too short, because I was doing that, I feel like, in the beginning, where I was doing clients for, let's say, literally like $200 a month. $200 to $300 a month was my average when I first started, and that was just not sustainable for the amount of content that I was doing for them. Sometimes it's good to gauge it off of that too, of how much work you're gonna be doing, because sometimes clients, like I was working for someone that was a hairstylist one time, and she took fabulous photos of her before and afters. So she's producing the content. I just have to make sure it gets posted. I have to make sure I'm engaging with people. The SEO is good, the alt text is good, all that kind of stuff. So that's definitely something where you can weigh out the price, because you're not taking the content. But nowadays, if you are taking the content, I would say $1,000 is average for a monthly social media thing. But that's like TikTok, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, like multiple accounts that you're running, and starting at a grand is pretty standard now. And I also like to have clients on the lower, maybe like 500 end, that I'm just trying to help out and build, because a lot of times I have grown with these businesses. So it's also good to have like contingencies where you do either like a biannual review or a yearly review, just so you can make sure your prices are staying on par with like what you're producing, because generally you get better with time. So you want to be charging a little bit more. Your editing is getting better, your videography is getting better, probably updating your equipment, so it's all things to kind of take into consideration. And just make sure you don't, because then I went like I think 2 years, and I was like, I have not raised my prices for anyone for the last 2 years, and then trying to kind of like go back, can be hard, because then people get used to a certain price. So
Yeah.
that's definitely a big part.
Do you use a scheduler?
I do. I use Planoly mostly. I have used Hootsuite. It's a little, it's not my favorite. I've also used, I think Hootsuite's just too, I don't want to say messy, but I also feel like it's not very user-friendly. I think Planoly is very clean and crisp, and it has all the same like features as far as like auto posting is concerned. You can only do so much. And also, I feel like the algorithm isn't really that great when you auto post. It really benefits you to just like go in the morning for 2 seconds and post it manually.
Okay.
But you have everything set up like on the scheduler, so it makes it nice and easy. You can do it in advance that way. I've also used Later. I did like Later. It's just a little bit more expensive than Planoly. So those are two good options, Later or Planoly. You can also use one called Unum, UNUM. That one I like to use because it's a free like first account, and it's just like a good way to get started if you're maybe doing your own, you want to spice it up, you don't have to pay. And it's just very visually easy to kind of get an aesthetic going on. For like my budgeting, I use QuickBooks and Square. So I take most of my payments through Square. I do love Square for all of that. And then QuickBooks is more for just like the taxes, because you can have an app on your phone where it tracks your miles on your car. So since I am in my vehicle, my home, I definitely use that app for taxes at the end of the year.
Nice.
Yeah. If I was starting off as a social media manager today, I think one really nice thing is to maybe have like a friend that you can go. So you don't have to have a friend. I just like to do things with people. So either with a friend or by yourself, you can spend a day, like make a day out of it, like get cute, put on a nice outfit where you feel nice and comfortable and confident, and go around to businesses. And if you're in a small town where you can, talking to people. In the meantime, while you're talking to people, you need to take a little break. You can focus on making content of yourself. Is always a good place to start. I generally like taking content of other people, but you have to start somewhere and practice. So I would take videos of myself, videos of different products, and then just testing it. And so balancing between going into businesses in person and then also reaching out, making user-generated content and reaching out to brands, either by their press email if they have one, or sometimes an Instagram DM, but usually you want to try to find an email. I think most people have way better luck if you can find an email on their contact form. So between those two, that's usually the best way. And also word of mouth. Again, I think marketing is one of those things that a lot of people need, social media management, but if you're not talking about it, it doesn't really come up in conversation. So yeah, just talking to people and also being confident that you're establishing yourself as that. Sometimes giving people a trial run is nice, like a week or a month. When you're starting out, you have to build a portfolio. So you're either doing clients for a very good price, so maybe 500 or less than 500 a month, or you're doing it pro bono for free for maybe a couple weeks or a month. And then that way you can get your whistle wet, because it takes a little bit of time to build a portfolio, and you can't start unless you start on your own personal account. But people like to see that you've been able to manage someone else as well. So I would say not to focus on your own portfolio, like your own aesthetic too much, unless you want to be an influencer as well. Then otherwise, try to find a friend that you can spice up, like someone that has a small local business. Spice it up, and I would start there.
I'm so grateful to Kat for sharing her insights into social media management to help women get on the road. If you liked the video, please share it. And if you'd like to see more van and rig tours, van life tips, and other information to help women get on the road, hit subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. If you're a woman who would like to join in deeper conversation, join our Facebook group, Gal Adventurers, where I organize our weekly Nomadic Women's virtual happy hour every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific. This is Joni with the Galavan. Enjoy your journey.